Hairdresser and Clonakilty native Justin Crowley is one of the people behind the iconic Galley Head 10-kilometre swim that takes place every year from Red Strand past the lighthouse to the Warren Strand. Over its 6 years of operation, it has raised almost €500,000 for local charities. He joined me recently to chat about the origins of the hugely popular event and why it's a must-do event on so many swimmers' calendars. So Justin, I know that you've just had the Galley Head swim there a few weeks ago, but before we talk about that, let us just go back a little bit to your own relationship with the sea and growing up in Clonakilty, that fabulous part of the world. It's great for...
I think my early memories are of going to Inchydoney. My mother ran a B&B, so in the summertime I was the fourth born child, and just a case of getting down to the beach, out of the house while my mother was working with the guests and stuff like that. So she would drop us down and she'd pretend she'd collect us later on, but invariably we had to walk home. So we spent a lot of time at the beach, and summers like this as well, where you get a blanket and put it over your head while it rains, and then you go back in the water and play football.
Do you remember learning to swim, or did you just teach yourself basically?
Yeah, just teaching yourself, just in and out and messing, you know. So it was a long time before I learned how to swim properly, actually, after that. Pool swimming in Dunmanway. So.
Oh, right, okay. So another person who learnt in Dunmanway, which is great to see that coming up a lot. So you grew up in Clonakilty, and I suppose the sea was really your playgrounds, really, if you were that close.
During the summer months,
yeah,
it was great fun.
And would you have gone beyond Inchydoney, or was that
No, there's no need.
No need. So why would you? Exactly. Exactly. So now you're based in Clonakilty, and your career background is hairdressing.
That's right, yeah.
And you have a big family, big in modern day terms.
4
I think.
kids, yeah.
And are they all?
All lifeguards, and at one stage, and worked in Inchydoney as lifeguards. Even worked in Warren as well. So they've gone around the world teaching lifeguarding. With different organisations. Okay. And surf lifesaving is a huge part of our house, you know. Yeah.
So. And we still don't do enough teaching kids swimming, we don't?
No, not half enough, no. Yeah. I think we still try to teach them in the sea during the summertime, and it's too cold, you know, so we just need more pools. Every town should have a swimming pool, you know, so
absolutely.
Unfortunately that's not the case.
Push now for Bandon as well to have one. Any big
has to happen.
Yeah. So bring me back to the start of the Galley Head swim, which I think was 6 years old.
Yeah, 6 years.
That's right. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how that got going.
Well, I suppose I got invited to a skiing holiday in Austria by November 2018, and my wife Alice died July of that year. Right. So I was kind of never been skiing. Yeah. Well, I had been skiing to the south of France. I thought I could ski, and these bunch of lads that go to Austria every year and Switzerland and around like that had been skiing for 20 years. So they said, come along. So I said, right, sure, I'll give it a go. But if you've never skied in Austria, it's incredible. Like, it's a different level altogether. Right. And so off I went with the boys. And
did you take to the skiing?
Took to the skiing and the social side of it as well. I mean,
that's the best part of skiing, I think.
Very important at that side of it. Even though the first year where we went was very quite socially, so there was a couple of us around sitting one night chatting about different things, and Pat Mulcahy, who was chairperson of the West Cork Search and Rescue, was with us on this trip. And I honestly thought it was state sponsored until that night he told us, no, it's all their own funding, their own pocket, their own time. And I said, well, how did you get organised? He said, well, it was in the T-Bon Ham disaster that time, and there was 6 people on board. 15th January 2012, and there was only one survivor, but they spent the bones of 30 days diving and searching for bodies, and they didn't give up until they recovered all 5 bodies, which was amazing. Some of the other state agencies had pulled out at that stage. They do their couple of days or their week and then they pull out, but this bunch stayed at it, and they were determined to bring home all the bodies, which they did. And then the subsequent ones after that, they were involved in a rescue in Baltimore, a recovery in Baltimore, and so they've been at this for 7 years, funding it themselves. And he said, like, this can't go on, it has to stop. So Pat said, I must organise a fundraiser. He came with that brainwave of doing something.
Yeah.
And because of his experience doing the Galway Bay 10k swim or 10 or 12k swim, he said they raise a lot of money up there for cancer. So he said we must do something like that in West Cork. And the night was going on at this stage now, and there's only 3 of us left in this bar. So we took out our phones and where can you get a 10k swim in West Cork with something iconic like a lighthouse? So we discovered from the Red Strand around the lighthouse and into the Warren and Rosscarbery. So
that's exactly 10k.
Yeah. Well, we had to kind of put a few buoys on. We had to kind of make people swim in towards the long strand to make it extend it a bit. And Pat said this is going to take a year and a half to organise, if not more. And myself and Jeffrey Wycherley said, no, we're going to do it this year. No matter how many turn up, we're doing it this year to give it a go. So I think we had 26 swimmers the first year and raised about 17,000, and we were thrilled with that, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And it was gone from strength to strength?
Strength to strength, yeah. Our target the following year then was double that, so 35,000. And sure, we raised 55,000 the second year. And like we were splitting the money in between Marymount and West Cork Search and Rescue, 50% each.
Yeah.
And we all sponsor different parts of it, so every penny raised goes directly to both charities. So, you know, we still have to pay for our skiing holidays. There's no money going towards a skiing holiday.
Of course not. And I suppose to an extent it was done in the memory of Alice, because it was Alice's experience with cancer that prompted your interest in the charity, was it?
Yeah, well, I suppose we all know about Marymount and the great work they do, and none of us think we're going to end up there, or our wives end up there, but it happens. And you know, once you've experienced it and the level of care they give, and then you hear about so many other people that have experienced Marymount, you just feel you have to raise money then to, you know, for an organisation like that. I mean, they do make it a much more pleasant departure, we'll say, as opposed to a hospital environment, you know. So, and they're very caring for the family and the family needs, and I had 4 kids as well. So, and
they were young at the time, I presume. It's gone back a while. Yeah.
So look, it's one of those charities that you just feel, you know, loads of people raise money for it, and you just feel it's a good one to give it to, you know.
Yeah. And are you involved now with the search and rescue?
No, I'm not involved, no. I think what happened then subsequently is over the years we had raised enough money for the search and rescue, so we bought a new boat for them, a new compressor, some other equipment. So mission was accomplished as such then with the search and rescue. So then we said the helicopter was another charity that needed funding. So once we were finished with the search and rescue, we started giving funds to the helicopter. And then that became a government contract.
Yes.
So we said, okay, that's a government contract. And then we got involved with Cancer Connect. We're based in Bantry, and like they're 100% donation based as well. I think they did get some money now recently, but
so they're the drivers that bring people to treatment in Cork City, and that's so a fantastic service.
we kind of look at different charities to see who are, you know, real charities, you know, that need funding. So
So tell me a little bit about the swim itself now, because 10k is no mean feat.
No, it's called a marathon swim, and we've been hearing about it this week now, that our own Daniel Whiffen wants to do the marathon swim, which is 10k, so I think people kind of get a gist of it now, and so anybody that has done the Galley Head will know what's facing Daniel, but then again, he doesn't have the Galley Head to go around and the currents and stuff.
Yeah. Justin, just tell me how the whole fundraising system works and how the money is raised.
I'm glad you've asked me that now, Siobhán, because without these swimmers and the relay teams and their families for organising different events to raise money, we would not have reached the target. Well, it's not a target, it's a wish list of 100,000.
Yeah.
So some groups will go away and they'll organise a disco, or they'll have a coffee morning, or they'll have their friends around for food or something like that, and they'll have a charity bucket there. And so each person in each group do their own fundraising.
Yeah.
So some groups might raise 2 and 3 grand, others will raise slightly less, but they're all putting in a fantastic effort over the years. I mean, some people have done this every year and they've raised money every year, you know, so it's fantastic credit to the swimmers for raising such money. You know.
And because there is an entry fee, and that's the minimum, isn't it?
There's a minimum entry fee, it's 500 for a solo and 750 for a relay team. So,
right.
But that'll be our minimum target, and most will go well above that. Yeah.
And when you sign up for it, you're kind of given a little bit of guidance, are you, on,
you
on
are.
how the whole system works? Yeah, well, that is
Definitely,
a phenomenal amount of money though to have raised in 6 years.
Incredible, yes. About 103,000 last year, over 100,000 this year. So it's kind of coming in at that figure now. So, like, it's very hard to walk away from an event then that raises that much money, and knowing the difference it makes to the charities that we give it to. So, and
that people enjoy doing so much.
And we enjoy it ourselves.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, fair play to you.
So it's a tough swim, but fortunately up to date we've been fortunate with the weather, which there's a little story back to that too. That I asked my contacts in the other world to kind of make sure we have a nice calm day for the Galley Head, and touch wood so far.
Every year?
Every year, yeah. So I mean, to get flat water on the Galley Head is quite unique, really.
Yeah. And is there contingency then if you don't get it? It'll. Well, I know you probably don't want to think about that ever happening, but.
Well, it happened last year. We had to cancel it last year because July was so bad.
It was a lot cancelled last year. Yeah.
But then I didn't ask for it last year because the lad said, no, it's been too calm. We need stormy conditions. So we got the stormy conditions. The Galley Head was cancelled, so we moved it up to September. Yeah. And we got another calm day in September again. So.
And have you done the full 10K?
No. I'm only part of the organising team.
But you do swim though?
Oh, I do swim, yeah.
And would you do it in relay?
We've done it in relay. The organising committee have done it in relays over the years, in both directions, just to see what it was like. Going from the Warren to the Red Strand was the event last year because of the September start. So we won't do that again. Okay,
everyone prefers the other direction, do they? Starting out and seeing the lighthouse coming towards you.
And everybody does it for different reasons. I mean, some of the relays, they start off doing a 4-man relay, and then the following year they could do 3-man and 2-man, and then eventually they do solos. But everybody's their own reason for doing it. And when you're swimming in the water like that, you're your own thoughts, and you can think about a loved one that's passed or the reason why you've done this event, and
And what are the numbers like now? Justin, you talked about 26 the first year.
We've about 150 now this year, so we've about 20 solos, which is individual, and then we've about 40 relay teams then. So.
And that's boats then with the relay teams?
We've 60 boats in total.
It gets quite busy.
Busy, 60 boats minding swimmers, and then about 8 or 10 safety boats and stuff like that. So it's a busy day, you know. But it's great fun. We enjoy doing it,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's become almost an iconic swimmer in Ireland now that people are travelling, aren't they?
Yes, we had a couple down from Sligo last year as part of a relay team. They came back this year, did a solo each, and they were spreading the word up there. We've got a few coming from Dublin now as well. So the word is spreading, which is good.
Time?
The cut-off time?
For doing it?
For doing it, we say 5.5 hours, but
I know you'd be a bit flexible with that if everyone is doing all right.
Yeah. Well, last year we had a very slow swimmer, but we just stuck with him, because it's a big swim.
It is.
And we say there's a cut-off, but we actually haven't pulled anybody out yet.
Yeah.
So. And
I mean, you started this before COVID, and COVID brought an awful lot more people into the whole swimming area.
The sea swimming has become a huge thing with people in general, and it's fantastic.
Do you know why? What would you put it down to?
There's no cost. A wetsuit,
Yeah.
And you're out in the elements. You've no phone. You've no technology. You just escape the world while you're swimming. So it's a bit like yoga, but it can go on for longer.
Right. Yeah. And what do you get from swimming now? What's the buzz you get?
Well, you've your fitness. It's non-impact, so you're not road running. So, like a lot of people, when they give up football, hurling, rugby, they take to road running and marathons, and then you see them having operations in their 50s, and knee replacements and hip replacements, and all this. Yeah. Whereas if you go swimming, you've no impact on the joints. And it's very good for your back. It's good for every part of you, and your mind as well, because you're battling the sea and the cold, and as we hear now, cold water is very good for people now. So cold dips and it's recovery.
And what's your routine like? Do you get in most days now, or once a week?
I'm also I'm coaching surf lifesaving as well this summer, so I'm on the beach about 10 hours a week coaching, and then I do a bit of swimming and boarding as well. So. It's busy,
Absolutely. And how do you feel that so far we've had a pretty bad summer now, you'd have to say, weather-wise? Is that
It's a
just
pretty bad summer weather-wise if you want to lie on the beach and go sunbathing.
Okay. Right.
But if it's cloudy or if it's dull, it doesn't make
Yeah,
a difference
yeah.
when you go to the ocean.
Okay.
You know, so
And the wind hasn't been too bad this
no,
year,
the
has
wind
it?
hasn't been bad. Like waves would be a big issue now, and the waves haven't been there. So the surfers are a bit complaining that they haven't had enough waves this summer. But
Yeah.
there's a good saying: there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing.
And I feel the same, and I often say that, and it's like people say, aren't you great to go swimming in the cold? And I think, well, you're not going to go skiing in your bikini.
Exactly.
So, you know, it's the same, really,
Yeah.
once you have the right gear. But so tell me about the future now of the Galley Head swim. Now you're on 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
Make it 10?
I think we just, this year again, over 100,000 has been raised for those 3 charities this year.
In 1 year?
In 1 year, in just one event, yeah.
Wow.
So co-action hours, we put them in the last couple of years. I think just short of 500,000 has in the 6 years so far. So it's spectacular.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
And I was speaking to people on the start line now, and the amount of first-timers, first-time relays and first-time swimmers, I said, this is a very good sign
Yeah.
that there's people doing it for the first time. And another chap said to me, whatever you do, you have to keep this going. You know,
Right.
this is a spectacular swim. Don't change it. Don't mess with it.
Yeah.
It's working. You know.
And what would you say to somebody who, you know, can do 2 or 3K comfortably enough, but is very nervous about the sound of the Galley Head, because it really is, you're out in the sea, you're well offshore at that point, and they're a little bit nervous. Like, how would you say?
Well, you're not on your own. You
approach
see,
it?
you've got a boat, you've safety boats, and I would do it in a relay first.
Yeah.
A 4-person relay, and let the most experienced swimmer start off the beach and
Right.
watch them progress. And they'll get you around the Galley Head and then jump in after that.
Okay.
You know. There's easy sections to it. So
What are the easy sections, as someone who hasn't
once
done it yet would like to know? Asking for a friend.
what are the easy sections? Yeah.
It's the second one.
The second one is probably the easiest,
Right.
even though I did speak to a guy who said there was still a lot of ADs and currents against you, but
Yeah.
it would be easier and less daunting than going around the Galley Head.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And then is the last one then is a nice one, I suppose, because you're coming into.
The last one's a nice one, yeah. So the 4 people
Yeah.
finish together then and come into
Okay.
the Warren together. So yeah.
Okay.
So you all jump out of the boat at the end and come across the finish
Okay,
line.
so
And
the first 3 get to do a little bit extra by the sounds of it, do they?
well, the 4th person starts
A little bit early.
a little bit earlier too. So the last 3 then jump in. you know,
Right,
so,
okay,
yeah.
that sounds wonderful. And then do you all have a great hoolie that night to
Well,
celebrate?
we did
your-
actually. We had music on the beach now this year, and I was comparing everybody passing the line, and there was loads of family gathering, and we were fortunate actually. It was a dull day,
Yeah.
so it was only the people involved in the swim were at the beach. You know, it wasn't packed with beachgoers, so
Yeah.
we had the whole beach to ourselves and barbecue at the end. So
Great.
it's great fun. But I think a lot of time people kind of go off and do their own thing. We did go to back to Rosscarbery to O'Brien's, and we had a bit of a shindig there, alright. You know,
Right.
so.
So why not? And now, for somebody planning maybe to do it next year, and I've heard a lot of talk about people here who, you know, they do Garnish and they do Ahakistonau's new one,
Yeah.
and they do Sandy Cove regularly, but they haven't done Galley Head, and people are a bit unsure how to go about it if there's a boat involved. So you need to get the boat yourself, do you?
Primarily, if you're from the coastal area like West Cork, you would know somebody with a boat.
Yeah.
We have a pool of boats, but they're for people travelling from Dublin and different
Right,
areas,
okay.
which would be more difficult for them. So
Yeah.
if you're from anywhere in West Cork, you do know people with boats. So pencil them in early.
And yeah.
And the boat people are fantastic. Actually, without the boat people, we would not be able to run this event. And they come back every year and they say, look, hands up, I'll do it again next year.
Yeah.
So like
And everyone's doing it for free, I presume.
yeah, and I spoke to one person last year, and he said the reason I'm giving my time and my boat for this event is that's my contribution to the charities.
Right.
So, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely, and the view and the whole lot.
Yeah.
And so when will we see applications open now for the next one? I know it's a bit early because you're only after finishing
So
this year, but
well, you sound as if you're signing up already.
I'm just getting as much info as I can.
I
So
can
I've
hear
no
it. I
excuse.
can hear you.
I have to find the boat first.
I'm sure you'll manage that.
The 3 compatriots.
I'm sure the Southern Star will splash all over a boat next
Oh,
year.
there now, there's-
Look, we'll pencil you in already. I have a team kept for you.
Well, it all depends on the weather, of course.
It doesn't.
But-
No, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, but swimmers are great at finding excuses when they want. But So when do applications open anyway? Is it early in the year? Or?
Usually before Christmas we kind of sit down and we pick a date and then maybe January, February we'll open it up.
Right, okay. Yeah. And is there a cut-off then? Like, I mean, is there a maximum? I know
we've 20 solos and 40 relay teams. That's our...
And that's it, really?
Yeah.
And it's just, it would get too big, would it?
Well, 60 boats and 10 safety boats, 70 boats, it's enough to manage.
Enough to keep an eye on, yeah. Absolutely.
And even very fortunate now this year, there was only one boat gave any little issue on the water, so of the 70 boats, so that was and it happened to be my boat that my son was driving.
Right, okay. So we'll keep a good eye on him.
Absolutely,
anyway. And is the charity remaining
well, I think we're going
action now for a while? Or?
Well, we're going to keep Marymount as our mainstay charity, because it touches, every family's been touched by cancer, and you know, it's going to continue on into the future like that. So we'll sit down on November and we'll decide what charities for next year. I think Cancer Connect will probably stay as well. And look, we're not looking for charities to come running after us. We'll make that decision ourselves.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Well, listen, Justin, thanks a million for joining me.
No, thank you very much.
Best of luck with the Galley Head, and
looking forward to seeing you next year.
I better get practicing
on the start line.
Get on the start line, and best of luck with the swimming between now and then.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thanks for listening to the Southern Stars from A to C podcast series. This episode was produced and presented by Southern Star editor Siobhán Cronin and edited by Tony O'Shaughnessy. For stories like this and more, visit southernstar.ie/podcasts, where you can swim through previous episodes with people like underwater cameraman Ken O'Sullivan, the men behind the Fastnet Swim, and the Swimming Women of Iceland. And be sure to pick up a copy of this Thursday's newspaper in shops across West Cork or online via southernstar.ie/subscribe. Please rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. And thanks for listening.